All right. Okay, so wonderful to see everybody. So before we jump in, why don't we take a moment to just allow our minds to settle a little bit so we can just take a comfortable seat with our back straight but relaxed, and our body's relaxed. And we can just for a couple of minutes just turn our attention to the sensations of the breath. Each time the mind wanders, we can just bring it back again and again. And then we think about our reason for being here tonight. And we could have a lot of different reasons for being here tonight, ranging all the way from curiosity or fun or interest, on up, perhaps. And what we try to do is we just try to mm, increase our ambition, broaden our ambition even more, and think whatever such motivations we might have, wonderful, may we have that. But not just that, not just that. May we get something here tonight that might help us in the long term, that it might help us have happy lives, comfortable lives, but not just that. If we are Buddhists, if we think this way, then we can think, may it be helpful to us in ways that will extend into future lives beyond just this specific lifetime. But not just that, may it help us in ways that will help us get out of samsara altogether, that will help us get suffering out from the root, the causes of suffering, so it can become completely liberated. And we think, but not just that, may it actually help us to attain perfect enlightenment so that we can be of the best possible benefit to all beings everywhere as quickly as possible. May we be able to accomplish that. May that be the reason for us doing everything we're doing here. And so, with that thought in our hearts, we can do everything we're going to do, starting now by opening our eyes if they're closed and settling in. And so, for those who know me already, it's no secret. I'm sure you won't be surprised that I'm like so excited. This was like years in the making, and this is so cool. I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm so glad we're all here. So thank you. Um, And maybe what we can do is we can just take a moment now to go around and maybe just each introduce ourselves. It's funny, like in this age of Zoom, like we kind of already know each other's names by default or something or pseudonym. But if you're comfortable, just maybe saying your name again, and just maybe where you're joining us from. And if you'd like to say just a few words about, what brings you here tonight or what you might hope to get from this, just whatever you might feel comfortable with. So I can go first. So my name is Gus, and I'm joining from, for anybody who's not in New York, I'm joining from New York. For anybody who is in New York, I'm joining from Long Island. And what brings me here tonight is that I um, I developed an interest in Tibetan debate. Gosh, it's crazy how time passes. It's probably been like well over 10 years ago now, which is insane. It doesn't feel like that long at all. And I found it life-changing, even though I myself have not had as much opportunity as I would wish in even debating with other people, but even just the system itself, I've just found it to be completely life-changing. It's completely changed my way of approaching things and understanding things, not just within Buddhism, but in life. And I guess, yeah, and I've just been really eager and excited to hopefully share a little bit of that with other people and give people some like this opportunity to come together so we can learn together as a group. It definitely, I say not just in Buddhism, but it definitely has changed my relationship to Buddhism. Like it's yeah, I'll leave it at that. So okay, so maybe we can go around and maybe we can just go in the order on my screen, but we can start with Venerable Tendron, if you would please. Try to avoid the glare. Yeah.
My name is Tendron. I'm teaching, I'm in Florida. I teach a lot at the Thupten Kungaling Center. And I'm teaching Exploring Buddhism for the East Coast. So some of you know me from that. Debate, I'm really bad at it. And but I really like it. I studied it a little bit way back when I was in Australia studying the basic program. And I really don't know what I'm doing at all, but I figure it's a way to work on my brain, keep my brain functioning, since I'm never going to learn a foreign language. But but this is a way to be able to work better with the material and take a risk. I mean, I'm really a shy person, and this is kind of a scary thing for me. Anyway. But I really like the topic.
So. Oh, thank you so much. Welcome. Wiley?
Hi, everyone. My name is Wiley. I'm joining from Brooklyn, actually just up the street from the physical Shantideva Center. So it's always so strange to be logging on instead of just walking down the street. And I am completely new to Tibetan Buddhism debate, so I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Tal?
Hi, my name is Tal, or Tally. A lot of people call me Tally. I'm in Florida. I'm in South Florida, and I am lucky to be able to attend Venerable Tendron's teachings. And I'm fairly new. I've been studying Buddhism a couple of years, so I'm fairly new, and I'm very intrigued by the debate class, and just was looking for more of a framework for my understanding of the teachings.
Wonderful. Welcome. It's so wonderful to have people from Thupten Link, by the way, Thupten Kunga, because that's where I took refuge there for the first time way back. So thank you. All right, Sheila.
So I'm Sheila, and I'm also from New York, from Manhattan. And I've just always been fascinated with the whole Tibetan debate drama. I don't really know that much about it. And I'm also very shy. And so this is really sort of pushing my comfort zone. And I almost didn't sign up, but I decided to give it a shot. And here I am.
Oh, I'm so glad I have yelled at you. Thank you. Welcome. Sneh?
Hi, I'm Sneh. I'm also in Manhattan and also part of the Shantideva Sangha. And I've always been fascinated by Tibetan debate, but never found an opportunity to study it. And the book was just so intimidating. I didn't even buy it. I just like, I think I saw it and I'm like, oh, I don't know how I would even think about it. And then Gus said he was interested in debate and that he'd been practicing. And we're like, Gus, please teach debate for us. So Gus, on top of teaching DB for us and having his own personal professional life, also agreed to teach debate. So Gus, thank you so much for making time in
It's
your
such
busy
a
schedule to do
sacrifice.
this.
I have to tell you,
It was
such a sacrifice.
so we're so happy. So I'm so happy. And I did read the 4 chapters and I thought, you know, if I didn't do anything else and I just read those 4 chapters, it was so informative. Like it was so helpful just to, you know, think about relationships between things, you know, in a structured way. And I thought, if this is all I do, it will be worth it.
Wonderful.
So thank you.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sunny? You're muted.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Sunny and right now I'm in Connecticut, and thank you guys for teaching this course. I love your other teachings, and so I'm looking forward to this course too. And the reason why I'm so interested in the debate is, number one, to clear my own mind for everything in general, because that's what Purdue says it's good for. You can apply it to any of your life. And then number two, I want to apply it to studying Buddhist concepts, which are very difficult for me. So I'm hoping that a clearer mind, you know, will help me understand the concepts better.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Erin?
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm in Minnesota, and I'm also relatively new to Buddhism. I've known about it for years and kind of toyed around with it, but really started over the past couple of years. And so I've known about debate in the tradition, but I have no exposure, no idea, never seen it, only heard about it. And so I'm really curious about it. I happen to live with a mathematician. And so while I was reading these first, especially the 4th chapter, I was talking, oh, this is very much like formal logic. So we were kind of looking through it. And so I would be shocked if it didn't bleed into living with a math PhD. So looking forward to it.
Nice, nice, wonderful. Thank you so much. Welcome. Ginger?
Hello, it's so nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you.
And thank you for giving the teachings. I kind of like what Sunny said, I want to get clearer in my mind, and also to have, hopefully this will teach me logic and focus. I didn't mean logic, I meant focus, but logic too. I love math and that kind of thing. I like clear-cut answers, but I know that's not always the case, but at least I can get started with going down my own path. And also I've seen on YouTube different debates given by the lamas in Tibet, or the different students in Tibet, and just their motions, you know, the way they do their motions. And I read that it go up, it could mean one thing, go down, it could mean another. And it just fascinates me because I love symbols. So I want to learn.
Wonderful. That's
Thank you.
wonderful. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. And I know there are a couple of people who have their cameras turned off, so I'm going to respect that and assume that you'd rather not share right now. If you would like to share, just pipe up, but otherwise I'm not going to, push you. So, so wonderful. Let me actually, sorry, just do my multi-screen samba here. Okay. So yes, I feel like it's going to be less about like me saying things than it's going to be about me like not saying things. Like that's going to be the hard part. So I'm going to try not to say too much. Couple of things from what I figured we could do today is I figured that I could share a few more general points, you know, from the introductory chapters. and some things that I've found to be like really, really helpful to clear away confusion in my mind about the material that we're going to be looking at. So I figured I'd kind of share some of that right off the gate, and with the proviso that it might not mean anything to folks yet, but I'll keep repeating it as we go. But like, I want you to have heard it already, so I can say I told you so. Um, and then I thought I could review a little bit the idea of the comparisons of phenomena, and then we could go into breakout rooms and do some practice. Okay. So the main thing that I wanted to highlight that stood out to me when I was kind of rereading the materials is the concept that the Tibetans have of having our knowledge in a box. And if you remember, Daniel Perdue explains it as like that's something that's the debate practitioners in Tibet will kind of say mockingly to each other when the person says like, oh, I don't know what it is, but I know exactly where to find it, right? And I think that there's just my own thinking, but I think at least for most of us, perhaps in our country, I don't know, I can see two ways that we tend to do that, two ways that we tend to have our knowledge in a box. The first one is feeling that if I have it in writing somewhere, then that's good enough, or feeling that if I have it, if I can Google it or look it up on Wikipedia, then that's good enough, you know? That's one way that I think we can have our knowledge in a box, which is really, it's really just a kind of simply not knowing something. You know, it's better than not knowing it and not knowing where to find it. It's much better than that. But it's not knowing it, but knowing where to find it, right? But then the more interesting one to me is when we think we know something, but we don't know the proof for it. We don't know like the evidence behind it, you know? I think this one is pretty pervasive for us. And I think that we tend to be that way a lot about science, you know? And I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. Okay, I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. But this is different from the other one because here we feel like we do know something, you know, and we can even say, I can tell you the earth is round. I can tell you that. That's a fact. I know it, right? But in reality, from a Buddhist point of view, if I can't tell you the proof of why the earth is round, if I can't tell you the evidence myself, then in reality, that boils down to a kind of faith. And in Buddhism, faith is never a very solid, firm basis of knowledge. If I have faith in something, then I don't really, really know it. Okay, so this is the truth for me personally. I'm not saying this is the truth for any of you, but this is the truth for me personally. For me personally, I have very, very strong faith that the earth is round, right? I even have the sketches of the reasoning whereby we know this. I mean, I guess one piece of reasoning is because you can go out to space and see it, but I myself haven't done that, right? I myself haven't done it. So I have faith that others have, right? And there's other mathematical ways that we can know, which I've a little bit, but I couldn't prove it to you, okay? Now, this part is important. If we were having this conversation a few years ago, I might have left it at that. But we're not having this conversation a few years ago, as you might notice. We're having this conversation now. So I feel like it is my ethical and moral duty to add this. It is crucial for us to rely on that level of faith, for us to live a healthy life, okay? We need to have that on a practical level, right? You can't do every experiment yourself, so you have to go by the balance of the probabilities, right? If the vast majority of the scientific community is saying something and we don't have a truly reliable way to check it out for ourselves, right, then it is wise to follow what they're saying for the time being. Because if you wait until you have a proof before you take the medicine, you will die, okay? No matter what the disease, no matter what the illness, right? It's similar to the Buddha's parable of the arrow, right? If you have an arrow in your heart and the person comes and you say, no, 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 before you touch it, I need to know who shot it and why and what is that, you're dead, right? So the wonderful teacher Geshe Thupten Sopala, one thing that he says to me, so he has this lovely way of saying things because he's from Tibet and his English is he says it's not very good. Let's say it that way. And so what he'll often do is he'll often speak English but with Tibetan grammar, and so the verb comes at the end, right? So he'll say to me, analysis need, analysis need, by which he means, you know, whether or not we need to analyze something, that in itself is something that we need to analyze, right? Because otherwise we'll just analyze everything and never do anything, right? So with that very, very important proviso, right? Having said that, then I will say this, but if it's a question that is really important to you, no matter what realm, no matter what topic, maybe it is about medicine, it doesn't matter. But if it's a question that's really important to you, then you should really track down the source. You should really examine it. You should really assess the validity of it. And then if the claim is based on reasoning, you need to check out the reasoning for yourself, which means that you might need to learn some tools for doing that, maybe logic, maybe math, right? Or if the claim is based on direct experience, then if at all possible, you should try to check that out for yourself, right? But again, until we're in a place where we're able to do that, then we have two choices. Either we believe what the vast majority of reliable people are saying, or else we take our chances, I guess, right? Okay. That is as much as I'm going to say at this point about a whole discipline in Buddhism, which is Buddhist epistemology, which is how do we know what we know? How do we know what we can rely on? You know, it's a very, very rich, discipline. Any questions at this point? Okay. So what I'd like to do next is I'd like to give you a little bit of a heads up, like almost like hanging some like of that bright orange tape that people use for like potholes and things, on a couple of pitfalls that I've encountered in trying to study these topics. Again, this might very well not make sense right now, but I want to put it out there right out of the gate, and we'll refer back to it. There are 2.5 things that I found have like made this enterprise seem a lot harder than it is for me. The first one, I think, is by far the most important one, and it will, again, I guess I'll just say, like, again, if it doesn't make very much sense to you right now, please don't worry too much, but I'll just say it this way. A big part of what we're doing in debate is we're distinguishing between something used as a subject versus that same thing used as a predicate, okay? A predicate is a property of something, so to speak. If I say the car is red, the car is the subject, red is the predicate, you know? My husband is tall, my husband is the subject, tall is the predicate. Shakyamuni Buddha is enlightened, Shakyamuni Buddha is the subject, enlightened is the predicate, okay? My husband is tall, tall is the predicate. Tall is a quality that I like, tall is the subject, okay? In English, you might say tallness is a quality that I like. It doesn't matter terribly much. My favorite number is 4. My favorite number subject, 4 predicate. 4 is an even number, 4 subject, even number predicate, all right? No matter how well you understand this, unless you're some kind of super genius, or unless I'm a lot more stupid than I realize, this will continue to confuse you throughout. My personal theory is that a lot of the early material that is studied in Tibetan debate is probably studied, this is my guess, it's probably studied for the main reason of driving this point home. And so like you get to practice it again and again and again and again and again, because this is simultaneously super confusing just because for some reason we're not used to thinking about it this way, and also super important, okay? So being confused about it is part of the expectation. But because what you'll see is that when we're saying, when we're making a statement about something as the subject, some things are true about that thing. When we're making some statements about something as the predicate, very different set of things are true about that thing, okay? I'll leave it there for now. The next one has to do with two words that are very, very central to all of this. The words definition and definiendum. The word definiendum is almost not so much of a problem because chances are you'll never encounter this in your life ever outside of this. The word definition is the more problematic one because you will see it a lot in your life. The topic that we call Tibetan debate in Tibet is called definitions. So if we say we're studying debate, the Tibetans would say we're studying definitions, okay? Here's the thing. This only dawned on me within the last year and a half, and I wish I had understood this 10 years ago. My life would have been so much easier. I'm going to go ahead and say this. This is going to sound arrogant, but I'm going to say it, I have this much conviction in it. Definition is freaking the wrong translation. That is not what we're talking about. That is not what we're talking about. It's not Daniel Perdue's fault. He inherited this translation. It's way older than he is. The word that's getting translated here as definition does not mean definition. It means something else entirely, okay? Why somebody ever thought that it meant definition, I don't know if I'll ever understand in retrospect. The sooner we understand that, the easier our life will be, all right? What does it mean? We'll get to it when we get to that word. But definition, it doesn't mean, okay? By the way, definiendum also is a bad translation. It also doesn't mean definiendum, but you know, so like, okay, just throw away all your concepts of definiendum that you already have. Okay. And then the third thing is this. The third thing has to do with the English phrasing in some specific contexts. Specifically, Daniel Perdue makes a big point in this book about whether you're using the singular or the plural, right? He'll also make a big point about whether you're saying like before the things like a dog versus dogs, okay? Now, personally, everything I have to say about this one is personal. Personally, I found that the suggestions that he makes have been to me more confusing than not, and just more things to have to remember. I think, and I feel like I can really appreciate where he's coming from. Like he's trying to be both true at the same time to the logic itself and to the grammar of English, okay? That's a big ask. My suggestion over like in terms of like my practice with this, what I found really for me would be not to worry about it too much, to just kind of let it come out however it comes out naturally for you. Just always try to remember, this will make sense as we go, but just always try to remember what you're actually talking about, which will vary depending on whether it's being used as a subject or whether it's being used as a predicate, right? But no matter how you phrase it in English. Let me just make a note. Because Daniel Perdue, he comes back to this point a few times over the course of the book. Sometimes to me, it really feels like that part, like when he's explaining it, feels really confusing to me. And I really don't think it's very important, frankly. So personally, I think this might just be one place where we can safely spare ourselves some mental gymnastics. Okay, be clear on what it is you're referring to. Don't worry if you're saying in the plural and the singular and this and that and the other. All of that, all of those things are really just artifacts of English grammar that have nothing to do with the logic of what we're actually saying when we understand it. Now, having said that, do whatever works best for you. If you find the explanations by Daniel Perdue helpful, go by that. That's fine. I think we'll all understand each other as we go. I don't think that will be a problem. Then the last thing I wanted to say before comparisons of phenomena is this. For the last year and a bit, I've been having a wonderful time studying and practicing with a friend of mine, Mike, who I think a few of you have met. And I was talking to him today, and I asked him, he knows that we're doing this tonight, and I asked him, like, if you were going to give people some advice, who are just starting out, like, what would you say? And this is what he said, and I wrote it down, and I quote him verbatim. He said, "It doesn't seem like it's important to know anything about Tibetan debate or Buddhism beforehand. Everything you need to know, you already know or will learn by listening or reading or doing. If before you start, it doesn't make sense, that's cool, because how would you know something that you don't know?" I thought that was like perfect. Everyone doesn't know at first. And as you learn, it becomes clearer, like everything. So trust the process. That's what he said. And I second that. Remember, it's one of my favorite sayings, whatever one fool can do, another fool can do also. Okay? If I was able to make some sense of this, you guys are going to be fine. Don't worry. Okay? Okay. Any questions at this point? Okay. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to review, before we break off into groups, I'd like to review the main points about the comparisons of phenomena. This is one I would say of like the 2 or 3 like main tools of Tibetan Buddhism. Like this is one of the main building blocks of not of Tibetan Buddhism, sorry, of Tibetan Buddhist debate. This is one of the main building blocks. And I do think, like, just like everything else here, it takes a while to kind of get used to wrap your mind around, let alone to become familiar with it, let alone for it to just, roll off the tongue. But I think it's helpful to kind of hear this a few times. So first of all, the requirements for us to be able to compare to phenomena. Phenomena, by the way, it's kind of like a fancy word for thing. The way the translations are done, phenomena is even broader than thing. Thing only gets used to refer to impermanent phenomena. Phenomena is used to refer to impermanent phenomena as well as to permanent phenomena. We'll get there, but so I've just kind of gotten in the habit of saying phenomena unless I mean impermanent things. But in regular English, we would say thing. So for us to compare 2 phenomena, the phenomena have to be 2. In this system, you can't compare 3. I mean, if you want to compare 3, you'll compare them 2 at a time, right? They both have to exist, and they have to be different. Meaning you can't just say the same word twice and ask, how do they compare? If somebody says, how do the 2 compare, Gus and Gus, the answer is they don't compare because you just said the same thing twice. If somebody says, how do the 2 compare, Gus and a 4-sided triangle, the answer is they don't compare because there's no such thing as a 4-sided triangle, right? This might sound a little bit like arbitrary like rules, but there's a reason why all of this is so. And as you go, you'll kind of say like, oh, that's why it can't be, that's why it can't happen. But for now, like we can just learn these almost as rules. Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to say is this. In Tibetan debate, whenever we compare two phenomena, we're always comparing them as predicates. Always, always. We're never comparing a subject to a subject or a subject to a predicate or a predicate. We're always comparing a predicate to a predicate. There's a very, very ingenious way that if we really, really want to use a subject in a comparison, we'll be able to use a predicate to do it, but that comes much later. But it's always a predicate. It's always a predicate. Which means this, that when I say, how do the two compare, car and red, okay? How does it compare car and red? I'm not asking about red, I'm asking about things which are red. I'm asking about things which are cars. Okay, so what I'm really saying is, how do the two overlap, if at all? The set of all things which are cars and the set of all things which are red. If I say, you know, how do the two compare? Containers and boxes, right? And I'm asking, you know, how do they overlap, if at all? The set of all things which are containers, the set of all things which are boxes. Okay. For some reason, I think when we hear words that like we'll say like mutually exclusive, mutually inclusive, we often tend to mix it up and think, oh, mutually exclusive means that they have nothing in common. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. Mutually inclusive means that there isn't anything in the set of being this that is also in the set of being that, right? So me and my husband is Nick. So how do the two compare, Gus and Nick? They're mutually exclusive. There's nothing that is Gus that is also Nick. There's nothing that is Nick that is also Gus. If you take the set of things which are Gus, you'll only get this guy. I mean, assuming that by Gus, I mean Gus Kutz, right? And if you take the set of things that are Nick, you're not going to get this guy. You're only going to get that guy, right? Now, he and I have lots of things in common, right? I mean, we got married. So we're comparing them as predicates. So when you consider a single predicate, a single phenomenon as a predicate, you know, then there's only two ways that subjects could relate to that predicate. Either the subject is that predicate or the subject is not that predicate. Those are the only possibilities. So if you only take the predicate box, you know, box. So either whatever you posit, either it is a box or it's not a box. That's it. That's it. For those of you who are into like Greek Western logic, it's called tertium non datur. Probably said better with a better accent. It's like there is no third. It's, I guess that's Latin, but it comes from Greek logic. It's yeah. Sometimes people misunderstand Buddhism as saying that, something can both be and not be at the same time, or something can neither be nor not be. No, it can't. It can't. It can't. When they're saying that, they're saying something else. They're just for those keeping, you know, score at home. Just when you encounter that, they're talking about ultimate, like inherently, you know. This neither is X inherently, it isn't not X inherently, it isn't both X and not X inherently, and it isn't neither inherently, because inherently, there's no inherently. Don't worry about that if that didn't make sense to you. Point is, it is not true. In Buddhism, as in life, either something is this or is not this, right? Now, life is full of dialectics. Life is full of things that both are and aren't at the same time. But that's because we're using a looser definition in those moments. You know, I want to go and I don't want to go, right? Sure, yes, that's the human condition, right? And when we're saying it that way, we're not using the same exact definition of want to go both times. right? Here we're being very precise. If you're being very, very, very precise about what you mean by heap, then either something is a heap or something is not a heap, right? If it's not clear, then it's because your definition isn't precise enough for debate, okay? So again, when you consider a single phenomenon as a predicate, there's only two ways that things could relate to it, either is or is not. Now, when you have two phenomena as predicates, okay, then there are four ways that something could relate to that, okay? Either something is both, or it is this one but not that one, or it is that one but not this one, or it is neither one, okay? Example, take the two predicates, mammals and land dwellers. Mammals and land dwellers, okay? There could be something that is both, like what, for example? If you shout it out, but you have to unmute yourself first.
People.
People, yes, human beings. Human beings, right? We're mammals and we're land dwellers. We are both. So that's one way that it can relate. Now, there are some things that are mammals but are not land dwellers. Like what?
Fish. Oh, I'm sorry.
Whales?
Um,
Whales.
Whale.
Whales, right? Yes, yes, exactly. Whales are mammals. Whales are not land dwellers, right? Now, there are some things that are land dwellers but are not mammals. Like what?
A lion?
Reptiles?
Sorry? Oh, wait, no, sorry. I said land
It's
dwellers
a
but not mammals. Land dwellers but not mammals, so
yeah,
not a lion.
Snake.
reptile.
Reptiles, yes, or at least many reptiles at the very least, right? Yes, yes. So many reptiles, like maybe like a rattlesnake. A rattlesnake is a land dweller, but it's not a mammal, right? Now there are also some things that are not mammals and are not land dwellers. Like what?
Fish.
Like fish, right? Like fish, right? Or like a rock. A rock is
point.
not a mammal, and a rock is not a land dweller. Like a rock under the sea, at least. A rock under the sea is not a land dweller, for sure, right? The number two is not a mammal, and the number two is not a land dweller, right? A four-sided triangle is not a mammal, and a four-sided triangle is not a land dweller, right? Okay, so these are the four possibilities of how things could relate to two predicates at the same time, okay? The Tibetan word for it, it translates literally as four corners. It's like you're taking this heap of stuff in the middle of the room and you're arranging it into four corners of the room. Like everything will go into one of the corners, but not more than one of the corners, right? The four corners are, it is both, it is the first but not the second, it is the second but not the first, it is neither the first nor the second. Okay, let's do one more example of that. Let's compare two predicates, two things. Funny things and knock-knock jokes. Okay? I'm gonna tell you, there are some things that are both funny things and knock-knock jokes. Does anybody want to give an example? I prepared in advance, okay? So here we go, knock knock.
Who's there?
Two.
To who?
To whom?
To whom?
Get it? Get it? Get it? Get it? Okay. So if you're like me, that's an example of something that is funny and a knock-knock joke. All right. Now, there are some things that are funny, but are not knock-knock jokes. Okay. I'll just give you an example. The TV show The Office. The Office is funny. The Office is not a knock-knock joke. All right. Then there are also things that are knock-knock jokes, but are not funny. This one is easy. Okay. An example of that would be, I won't make you say it. Knock, knock, who's there? Tank, tank who, you're welcome. Okay, that is a knock, knock joke. It's not funny, all right? And then there are some things that are neither knock, knock jokes nor funny. An example is War and Peace, okay? It's not a knock, knock joke, it's not funny. At least I didn't make it to the end, but the parts I read. And another thing is a rock. a rock is not a knock-knock joke, a rock is not funny. One could also give more examples that, but one doesn't wish to be unkind, okay? So like insert your favorite TV show that you don't think is funny that is supposed to be funny, that would also be, but let's not. So, so again, so now there's no fifth thing. These are the only four possible ways that things could relate, that things could relate to two predicates at the same time. Okay. Any questions thus far? Yes, please, Sneh.
Sorry, when you say predicate, can I
Yes.
think of it as a quality? Or would I be limiting myself or make a mistake later down?
I don't know if you would actually make a mistake. You would be limiting yourself, at least on a very technical level. Like, as long as you know what you mean, I think it's okay, because this system doesn't use that language anyway. I'm the one who's bringing this in.
So I just more naturally think of quality, like the quality, you know, whether it's a color or something. I don't know, in my mind, it's like the quality or the property of something versus.
I get it.
Like when I think predicate, I think I'm trying to prove a thesis, you know, or.
Well, you are going to be.
Yeah.
But let me just give you an example real quick of where that would be a limitation. Like if I said something like, my husband is going to the store. Going to the store would be the predicate, even though it's not quite a quality, not really, you know? Or, you know, my husband wakes up at 8 every day. You know, wakes up at 8 every day is a predicate. You see what I mean?
Yeah. So it's better to start thinking as a predicate. Okay.
I think so. Like, I the only reason I feel a little sheepish kind of saying it like with great power is because that is one element that isn't stated in that way in this tradition anyway. So I don't feel comfortable in, like, I don't feel comfortable enough to say that I've analyzed it and I'm the owner of the truth. And so here's what's what, you know, like, but personally, I think what it is that I'm bringing these terms from Western logic, and in Western logic, you would definitely call it a predicate because it can be much broader than a quality. A quality would be a type of predicate. And furthermore, a quality could actually be a subject.
Yeah, because that is what you were explaining to us earlier, that quality can become the subject, and then that will have its own quality or something.
Exactly. Yes.
So I just think in terms of predicate.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So if there are only those four corners, right, where things can go, what follows from that is that when you compare two phenomena as predicates, which is the only way we can compare them, there are four ways in which they could compare. Okay, this is not the same as the four corners. Okay, follow me here. For some pairs of phenomena, all four permutations will be available. There will be something to put in each of the four corners. Okay, so it will be possible to come up with an example for each of the four. And so we call that four possibilities. There are four possibilities. So both of the examples that we just used before are this type, okay? So like a mammal and a land dweller has four possibilities. There's something that you could put in each of the four corners for those two, right? A knock-knock joke and funny is four possibilities. There's something that you could put in each of the four corners for those two, okay? Now, sometimes you won't have something that you could put in each of the four corners, like this. If I were to compare a dog and a mammal, okay? Now you could come up with something that is both, like my dog Snoopy. My dog Snoopy is a dog and he is a mammal. So for that corner, the corner of both, I can put my dog Snoopy there, okay? Now there are things that are mammals that are not dogs, right? For example, a whale. So I could, if I could fit it, I could take a whale and I could put it in that corner over there of mammals that are not dogs. Now, can you think of something that is a dog but is not a mammal? Exactly, you can't. So that corner is empty. There's nothing that can go in that corner. So that possibility is excluded. Yes, Ginger, yes.
What about a stuffed animal that looks like a dog? It has dog qualities.
Fantastic. This is excellent, excellent. Now, see, this is Tibetan debate. You're doing it. Great, great. Now, if this were just the introductory session, I'd say let's debate that. But here's what I'm gonna tell you the answer. If you wouldn't consider it a mammal, then you also wouldn't consider it a dog. For the same reason, you see, in that case, it's not a real mammal because it's just a stuffed animal. It's not a real dog because it's just a stuffed animal. See what I mean? That's great. That's excellent. So, you know, and good. Don't believe me, right? But for now, I'm going to say this, you know, and you can figure this out later and see if I'm wrong. But I'm going to say for now, there's nothing that you could posit that is a dog but is not a mammal, right? So that corner is going to be empty, right? Now there is something that you could posit that is neither a dog nor a mammal, like a rock. Rock is my favorite example. It's my go-to. It's very unclassy, like it's not good form, or you should say fancier things, but we'll just go with a rock. A rock is not a dog, a rock is not a mammal, okay? We could also say a snail. All right, so this fourth corner, the corner says either, there's also something there. So if you tally it up, 1, 2, 3 corners have something in it. 1 corner has nothing in it. It's impossible. It's not possible to put something in the yes, it is a dog, no, it is not a mammal corner. Therefore, for this example, there are only 3 possibilities. Does that make sense? Okay. In the West, we're more used to thinking of these things in terms of Venn diagrams. Fantastic. If you like that, that's fantastic. For me, I find that the 4 corners works better. Like, I think it's just a little easier for this. It comes to the same point. Okay. Now, there are going to be things where, you know, there are only 2 corners and such, but we just don't phrase it that way. And later you can think about it. You can see like this pretty reason why, you know, like, oh yeah, it's a prettier way to say it this way. So if I were to ask you, how do the 2 compare? I'm just thinking of like, what might be a good example. Like, I'll just say this. All right, no, I'll say this instead. Bachelors and unmarried men. Okay, can you think of something that is both?
I'm just free form thinking. I don't know where this fits, but what about a widower? He's been married, but he's a bachelor now. Or it depends on what your definition of bachelor is.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Perfect. Yes, see, this is why in Tibet, this is called definitions, even though we're not really saying definitions. But yes, yes, it does. It does. But for now, let's just pretend that unmarried man and bachelor are synonyms, okay? If you pretend that, then okay, I can think of something that is both an unmarried man and a bachelor, namely,
His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama, exactly, yes, exactly. Now, can you think of something that is an unmarried man but not a bachelor? No, given the fact that we said that they're synonyms, then it's impossible. Can you think of something that is a bachelor but not an unmarried man? Also no, given the way we defined it, it's impossible, right? Can you think of something that is neither? Sure, fine, that doesn't matter. If there is nothing that is both, if there is nothing that is both, then we say that they're mutually exclusive. Whatever is one is necessarily not the other. Whatever is the other is necessarily not the one. That is why the subjects Gus and Nick are mutually exclusive. Whatever is Gus is necessarily not Nick. Whatever is Nick is necessarily not Gus. Okay? The subject cats and dogs is mutually exclusive. Whatever is a cat is not a dog. Whatever is a dog is not a cat, right? Now, even the subjects, a 1-year-old lion and a 2-year-old lion, those are mutually exclusive. Whatever is a 1-year-old lion is not a 2-year-old lion. Whatever is a 2-year-old lion is not a 1-year-old lion, right? Okay, and then the only other possibility that's left is for, wait a minute. You guys probably all caught that. I started by explaining one thing and finished on the grand finale by having explained the other thing. The beginning of my sentence, I was talking about mutually inclusive, and by the end of my sentence, I was talking mutually exclusive, right? Mutually inclusive is when whatever is one is necessarily the other, whatever is the other is necessarily the one. Mutually exclusive is whatever is one is necessarily not the other, whatever is the other is necessarily not the one. Okay? Any questions at this point?
What were your example? What was your example for mutually inclusive?
What was my example? Oh, it was bachelor and unmarried man.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Sure. We could also say in English, I think we could also say cat and feline. Like any synonyms certainly would fit the bill. But it doesn't have to be synonyms. Probably, I'm not making this example up, this is from Western philosophy, but probably we would say that a being that has a heart and a being that has a liver are probably mutually inclusive. There's probably nothing that is one but is not the other. I can't prove that though. But that is an example given in Western philosophy for something of the type of how things can be mutually inclusive without being synonyms. Now, if you want to get fancy, and unfortunately we do, and I'll be honest with you, the only reason I'm going into this right now is because in this chapter, Daniel Perdue already has gone into it, so we have to. Is this 2 of these 4 have subtypes? Okay, so 4 possibilities have 2 subtypes, 3 possibilities has 2 subtypes. And the subtypes are the same for both. The subtypes are including something that is neither and without anything that is neither. So what that means is this. Most of the time in the regular course of daily affairs, any 2 things that you're comparing, you'll be able to think of something that is neither. Usually it's going to be a rock, right? Sometimes a rock won't work, but there's usually something. You know, the horn of a rabbit might be one, or, you know, a married bachelor, or something. But sometimes the 2 things that you're comparing are just so that they cover that space. There's no such thing that is neither. Okay? That will only happen either when like you have the perfect storm of luck, or when you're being very clever and you've set it up that way, right? So here's an example of that. The example would be a mammal or a non-cow. A non-cow is that which is not a cow, okay? So let's think about this. Let's think about the 4 corners. Can you guys think of something that is both a mammal and a non-cow? Give me an example.
Real.
A whale.
A whale, yes, a whale is a mammal, a whale is a non-cow. So there is something that is both, okay? Now, can you think of something that is one but not the other? Can you think of something that is a mammal but is not a non-cow?
Cow.
Hmm?
A cow.
A cow, yes.
Yeah.
A cow is a mammal and a cow is not a non-cow, right? So there is something that goes in that corner too, all right? Now, in the other direction, can you think of something that is, what is it? A mammal and a non-cow. Can you think of something that is a non-cow but is not a mammal?
A rock.
Rock.
A rock, a rock, yes. Always check for a rock. A rock is a non-cow, right? A rock is not a mammal. So there is that also, okay? Now, can you think of something that is neither a mammal nor a non-cow? I will give you 24 hours. Here's why you can't. Because whatever you think of that is not a non-cow is necessarily a cow. And whatever is a cow is necessarily a mammal. So you can't think of something that is not a non-cow and that is also not a mammal. You see that? If you don't see that, that's okay. Just keep thinking, keep trying to think of something that is neither a mammal nor a non-cow. You will get at what I said on your own. That's the beauty of logic. That's the beauty of this.
The negations always end up being so confusing, Gus, when, you know, it's like not non-permanent or not non-cow. It's like my brain freezes.
Yeah, oh, we're gonna have a lot of that. Now, the Tibetans have a little trick. Now, the thing is this, I've only ever read about this trick. I actually haven't, I've never had somebody show me. So I don't know, I don't know the correct direction, but it's this. Apparently, like you use your thumb to count like this. Now, see, this is the thing. I myself don't know, and if anybody knows, please tell me, but I don't know which is which, but I always say this is not, this is yes, no, yes, no, yes. So for every negation, you go around like this, and wherever you land, you'll know whether you're talking about a no or a yes. So a not non-cow is a yes cow. This works because if it's odd, it's going to end up being not, and if it's even, it's going to end up being yes. You know, like a non-cow is not a cow. A not non-cow is a yes cow. That which is other than not a non-cow is not a cow. That which is reversed from being other than not being a non-cow is a yes cow.
I think even the shortcut is like tripping my brain up.
That's good. That's good. That's the rust starting to kind of,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't mean you, I mean all of us, right?
I feel it. I feel like my brain is like, what? It's hiccuping. My brain is hiccuping.
Good, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's really good for the brain on a biological level. That's great. But yes, but anytime that you end up with something that doesn't have something that is neither, it's going to be something a little funny. It's going to be something a little weird. Okay. Now, there are two ways that these things can get labeled. There's one way that is more logically consistent, and there's one way that's more user-friendly. And thankfully, Daniel Perdue uses the more user-friendly one. Because this, this could get confusing really quickly if you did it. the more logically consistent one would be to say, all right, there's something that is both, there's something that's the first but not the second, there's something that's the second but not the first, but there's nothing that is neither. Well, that's three corners. So we should call it three possibilities without something that is neither. Okay. Thankfully, we don't do that. We still call it four possibilities without something that is neither. Even though that's not logically super consistent, it is so much more easy to do, because really what it comes down to is this way we can just think about, we're going to say three possibilities if one is a subset of the other. Dog and mammal, it's going to be three possibilities. One is a subset, one is fully included in the other, right? Otherwise, if one is not fully included in the other, they overlap, then it's four possibilities. And then we just have to think as a separate step, is there something that is neither, yes or no? Okay. Yes.
Okay, early on we said that whatever we're positing has to be an existent, right? A predicate, it has to exist.
Whatever,
say
whatever we're positing as a predicate to
has to
compare.
exist. Okay, so we would have this problem with things that don't exist. Like you can always say the horns of a rabbit are neither. But my teacher would say, but that doesn't exist. So it's, forget that.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean that you just use that as an
Yes.
So I'm
Perfect.
trying to figure out where that fits.
That's great. Okay, yes. So this is one reason why I think so. So first and foremost, things that don't exist, they can still be subjects or predicates. Okay. And what I said earlier, based on what the book says, is that if you're using a predicate that doesn't exist, then you can't compare it. It doesn't compare to anything. Okay. Now, you can use it as a subject in one of the corners. You can put it in one of the corners. However, it's not good form if you can help it. And I bet that's probably, I can't, of course, can speak for them, but that's probably why your teacher was telling you, don't use that, Like if you can say something, like there's kind of like, you pick up on this like hierarchy of like good form, If you can say something that's impermanent, that's better. Failing that, if you have to say something permanent, fine. But that's better than saying something that's non-existent, But if you have, like non-existent would be like the bottom of the barrel, Similarly, if you're asking me what's an example of something that is neither, I don't know, like neither a mammal nor a dog, I don't know if I could say, this isn't super great, but like if you can say something that's like, ooh, that's clever, because like it comes so close, but it isn't, that's better, than saying a rock. But that's more to do with just like the elegance,
Okay.
and also with if you always rely on a rock or you always rely on the horn of a rabbit, then you're not going to think about it as much, so that's probably another reason to not use it. But logically, it's sound.
It fits. Okay.
Yes, and in
okay.
some cases, it will be the only thing that you could possibly say
Yeah.
to go in one of the corners. Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Of course. So here's what I'd like for us to do now. I'd like for us to take a few minutes and go into breakout rooms in pairs. Let's go in pairs. And what I'd like to ask us to look at is exercise 4.7. Exercise 4.7, it gives a list of pairs of predicates, and it asks you to figure out how do they compare, So the way to go about it is to go through your mind the four corners and to say, okay, is there something that is both? Is there something that is the first but not the second? Is there something that is the second but not the first? You have to come up with examples for each of them if the answer is yes. And is there something that is neither? Okay. And then based on that, you'll be able to say, is it four possibilities? Is it three possibilities? Is it mutually inclusive or is it mutually exclusive? Okay. I'm not going to ask you to worry about the format that he explained earlier right now. I'll just ask you to talk informally and figure out which of these is the way, how do they compare? How is the way we say it, how do they compare? Does anybody have any questions about the instruction, the prompt?
What page number is it on?
Oh gosh, that's the only question I was hoping you wouldn't ask.
In the
Does
book,
anybody
it's
know?
page-
I'm
in the book, it's
56.
Page 63
63?
in the book.
Somebody say 63.
I'm using a PDF, so mine might be a little different.
Ah, okay, 63. Thank you. Because I only have the Kindle version and it doesn't have page numbers. Okay.
You said
So
exercise 4.7, right, Gus?
4.7, yes.
Okay.
Is that the right one? That's the one that
Yeah, it says
right?
like it starts with prime numbers and even numbers, or numbers and
Yes.
integers, or
Yes,
whole numbers,
perfect.
natural numbers.
Perfect. And if you come across a pair where you just don't happen to know enough about the subject matter to say, then don't worry about it. Just move on to the next one.
I was just going to ask Erin, what's a natural number? I've forgotten.
There you go. Right. So if neither person in the party knows, all right, let's do that. So we have a few minutes afterwards to kind of check in about it too. Wiley, would you mind? Or wait, can I do it from here?
Mm-hmm. Your co-host, Gus.
Yeah,
Awesome.
you should be able to.
So I think I have to assign it manually just because we do have like one person who isn't a real person. Ginger's laptop, I mean. So hold on, let me see how I can do this. Assign. But I'm doing it randomly. So randomly, in fact, that I did it wrong. Hold on. I made 2 rooms instead of, that's not what I meant to do. How many are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're 10.
I think we're 10, including you, Gus.
I did it again. Yeah, we're 10 including me, but otherwise we're an odd number, which I don't know if it's a prime number.
If you do 5 rooms, then Ginger's laptop will just be extra somewhere.
No, I didn't count her. Wiley, could you help me out? Could you break us up into groups of 2? I feel like I keep making the same mistake, and I'm thinking that's because I'm not being actually given another alternative.
I can't find the exercise.
Oh, I'm sorry.
4.7.
4.7.
Jana, what was that you were saying? Like if we do it as 5 breakout rooms, that would
That would. So they'll just be an extra.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna try that and we'll see what happens.
4.7, exercise 4.7 on page 63.
I may not
I
have
have-
those.
Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay.
Wiley, I have a request. If you could put
Mhm.
my laptop, make a group of 3 in with me and someone else, because I can only type on my laptop,
Yeah.
not on my phone.
Maybe you can assign it randomly and then we can drag that in. All right. So what was that like, folks? Oh no, I have both.
It was
What
fun.
good. I'm glad. What are some challenges that folks faced?
The definition of what something is, like what makes something a
Yes.
vehicle.
Yes, exactly, right? For sure. Anybody else struggle with like, what is a star in the Milky Way that isn't in our solar system, right?
We went with ones we could understand.
Good, wise and prudent. But let me say this, for something like, what is something that is a star in the Milky Way but not a star in our solar system? Assuming that we even know what that means, right? One thing that you can say is the nearest star in the Milky Way that isn't in our solar system. Because by definition, right, that's in the Milky Way, that's not in the solar system, right? And so your opponent in debate, if they wanted to challenge that, they would have to prove that such a thing doesn't exist. That would be their only option. Does that make sense? So sometimes you can give, like, an example of something that is a dog and a mammal. I can say my dog Snoopy, or I can say any dog in my town. It can be as broad or as specific as I want to make it. All right. Yes, and then in terms of knowing what the definition of something is, what's the definition of a vehicle? There's two ways to go about that. One is to have established the definitions first. The other is to kind of debate it out and see what happens. Because then you'd have to see what the consequences are of positing this versus positing that. Like, I recently had just for fun, like a debate with my dad. And at some point or other, it came up that we were trying to figure out whether, like, he had said something about, I forget what he had said that got us to this, but the question on hand was, is a dead bird a mineral? Yes or no? And, like, that wasn't the original question. That's where the debate had led us. And that was, like, really interesting for us to think about. So, so in any case, I know we have to stop, but just because, I want to give any questions, any sticking points before we
Is there
close for,
homework?
sorry?
I came late. Is there homework?
Is there homework? Great question. I'm not going to ask folks to read any further into the book yet, because next time I want us to keep practicing this part. But what I will ask you to do is to keep thinking about this. So the homework is, it's like a more informal homework. It's not like this page, okay? But keep thinking about this. Keep, review these points, review the exercises, think about this stuff, and be on the lookout throughout the week. I think, in fact, this might be the next exercise. It might be exactly this. Be on the lookout over the course of the week. Think about two sets of predicates. How do they compare? Can I think of things which are both? Can I think of things which are one but not the other? Can I think of things which are the other but not the one? Can I think of things which are neither? Right? And then label it. Like, once you've figured it out, label it. Okay, so what does that mean? That means it's three possibilities, including something which is neither. Or no, that means that it's four possibilities. That means they're mutually exclusive. How's that? Does that make sense? Anybody? Oh, yes, Ginger?
I'm stuck. I had a lot of trouble with the wording of each consideration. So the first one is whether both things can be both. Like, is it
No.
even possible?
Great. Whether there can be something else which is both. Whether there's something else that is this
Something
and that is
else.
that.
And then what about the fourth one? It's like,
All of them are like that. Is there something else that
are
is
like
A
that.
and B? Is there something else that is A but not B? Is there something else that is B but not A? Is there something else that is neither A nor B?
Yeah, I get the second one and the third one, but the other two I had a little trouble with.
Does that
Because I
make a little
thought
bit more sense?
we were comparing like red and cars. Like, there are red cars and there are red other things. So that's the second and third. But what's the fourth? What are we comparing red to
Something
cars?
that is so you're never actually comparing red to car. They're never the subjects being compared. That's part of what I mean, right? You're thinking
Oh,
something that is red, something that is car, you see? So can you think of something that is neither red nor a car?
sure. Okay. All
Like the
right.
blue sky. The blue sky is not red.
Mhm.
The blue sky is not a car. So that is something
Okay.
that is neither.
All right. Thank you. That helps a lot.
You see? Good. Now, just don't let this confuse you. But I'm saying, can you think of something else? Can you think of something else? Now, really, it doesn't have to be something else, but don't worry about that. We'll get to that. But I think that's an easier way to get into it, to think about it this way, something else, because we're not comparing these two things as subjects. That's the point. Yes, Janet?
I found a couple of mistakes in the reading that actually changed the meaning, and I can email them to you, or should I say them now?
Are there just like one or two or
I
several?
found two.
Please.
One is on page 52. There's this little graph the blue and the colors of cloth next to the color of a blue sky, they should both be an X.
Mhm.
The second one should be an X. It is blue, but it's not the color of cloth. And
Yes.
check mark, and it should be an X.
Yes. Fantastic. Exactly. And the other one?
And then the other one is an exercise 4.4. There's a wording problem. There are limitless pairs of phenomena that compares 4 possibilities, including the possibility of, and I believe it should be of nothing that is neither, or without anything that is neither. And it says that something that is neither, but I think that's a mistake.
That one right now, I believe you. I'd have to look at it, but I believe you. You're probably right. Thank you so much. This is good. Whenever somebody writes a debate manual, it is recommended that they include some mistakes. That is, do you guys know about this? Like in Western tradition, if you ever weave a tapestry, you're supposed to make a mistake because only God is supposed to be able to create something perfect, right? If you're writing a manual or a logic manual in a Tibetan tradition, you're supposed to include mistakes because it's the only way people will pay attention and not just believe you. So well done. It's like Easter eggs. So see if you can catch the mistakes. It's really good. It's really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was going to say, I will add to Jenna and say, I think there's a mistake on page 48.
Oh, can you just tell me real quick?
I'll email.
Okay.
It is, yeah, it's, I feel like he reversed the sets, like, which is the bigger set, but I'll email
I
it to
believe
you.
you. I believe you. Good, 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 good. That's good. So if ever you're looking at it and you're like, this makes no sense whatsoever, I think it's the opposite. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's one of the mistakes. Okay. Wonderful. We should stop. I know I'm holding everybody late. Sorry for that. But let's end with a dedication, just very briefly. And let's just think about all of the positive potential that we've created together here. We know we've created positive potential by virtue of the fact that we had set a positive motivation for doing what we've done. Because our motivation was positive, everything we've done has created positive. Well, there's some positive potential created by anything we may have done. And so we think, may all of this positive potential be that we may develop wisdom, true wisdom, clarity, so that we can also, in conjunction with that, develop a pure motivation, deeper, broader motivation to give best possible help to all beings, so that we can put those things together in a way that we can be of most benefit to all universal beings everywhere. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Have fun thinking about these things this week, and I look forward very much to seeing everybody again next week.